Hello everybody, and today I'll be doing a Gym Leader Challenge deck profile on Lightning Spread by Alex. So the main attackers in the deck are the Electivire and the Regieleki. The Electivire has that high voltage current attack. For 2 lightning and a colorless, the attack does 50 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. So this is a really strong attack because not a lot of Pokemon can survive even 3 of these, which it seems like it would be difficult to get 3 of them off, but it really isn't when you factor in the other spreads that you have access to, so you don't even need to get 3 off throughout a game. But 50 damage to everything for 3 energy is really good. And then when you pair it with basic attackers like the Regieleki with the Terra Spark, for 2 lightning and a colorless, does 120 damage to the active, and then you discard all lightning energy from it, and it does 40 damage to 2 of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So that can be really solid to clean up some Pokemon, because a good chunk of Pokemon have 90 HP, and most people will be playing the 90 HP versions because they are you can grab them off of Level Ball, which I'll talk about later. But 90 HP versions of Stage 1 Pokemon are very prevalent, and a high voltage current into a Terra Spark or a Terra Spark into a high voltage current will let you take out those 90 HP Pokemon on the bench. So other attackers, Tapu Koko with the Flying Flip. For 2 colorless, the attack does 20 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. This is a great way to start out the game. You go Flying Flip, 20 damage to all of your opponent's Pokemon. This can apply some very heavy early pressure. Zapdos is great for taking just quick KOs. It can donk if you get the right setup and your opponent doesn't get any bench Pokemon. It has Thunderous Assault for 1 lightning. If it was on the bench and became your active Pokemon, it does 70 more damage, and then it's not affected by weakness. So it can do 80 for 1 if it moves to the active spot. And none of the basic Pokemon in the deck have more than 1 retreat. So you can attach a retreat tool to them and get into the Zapdos like rather easily. Tapu Koko has free retreat. There's a Pokemon on the next side that has free retreat. It's just really easy to get into the Zapdos if you need to. And then Morpeko, another basic attacker with Torment. Torment can be a really good attack to help you like stall for a little bit. If your opponent has an attacker that they only have 1 set up and it has 1 attack, or if your opponent is kind of tearing your board up with 1 attack, you can go Torment for 1 colorless, does 20 damage, and then you choose one of your opponent's Pokemon's attacks, and they can't use it during the next turn. Um, Again, good stall you a little bit, buy you some time, but it's mainly in here for the Spark attack for a Lightning and a colorless. It does 50 damage and 20 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So this deck's very heavy on spread. Morpeko is a great 50-20 is pretty good numbers to be hitting, especially because you can do it turn 1. And there's a couple cards later that can make the Morpeko do some crazy damage, and Spark can actually be taking out some like 70 HP Pokemon, even 80 HP Pokemon. Spark can just 1-hit KO them and then put 20 damage on the bench that you can utilize later with your other spread attacks. So the support Pokemon, Lightning is very powerful with 2 Dynamotor abilities in Electric and Flaffy. Electric and Fluffy again both have the Dynamotor, which lets you attach a Lightning Energy card from your discard pile to one of your benched Pokemon once during a turn. So because you have 2 of them, you can do it twice. This makes it a lot easier to power up those 3 energy attack costs. It's just Dynamotor, attach for turn. They do both have 2 retreat, which can be difficult to deal with, but it isn't really that big of an issue because you can just play more retreat tools. And the Tynamo does have free retreat, so it's another way to get into the Zapdos. Mareep has 1 retreat, 60 HP, and this list is playing the Shock Bolt Mareep, which for 1 lightning does 30 damage, and then you discard all lightning from the Mareep. So again, with the boosts that you can add to the damage, this can take some KOs and be just another donk attacker. And then the lightning draw engine is Zebstrika with the sprint ability. This is a very destructive draw engine, but lightning can take very solid advantage of it because sprint, just once during your turn, you can discard your hand and draw 4 cards. Now, this can be very good in certain situations. If you have a hand of, let's say, 6 cards, and you have something that you need to dig for, you don't need to thin out your hand if you like you would if you had a Pokemon that lets you draw up to a certain number of cards. Substrika just says ditch your hand, draw 4 cards. So if your hand's dead, you can just see a fresh new 4 cards. It's very destructive though, like I said, and if you have some pieces that you want to keep, it can be difficult sequencing, and you may just have to say goodbye to some good pieces. But the deck does play more recovery to make up for that. So trainers, like I mentioned, the um, Zapdos play can be very, very solid at taking an early prize lead. So there's just a whole ton of Pokemon search. And because you can dig so deep with Substrika, all of these Pokemon search can even become useful later in the game. And if you don't need them, then it doesn't matter because you can just discard them with Substrika. So Evolution Incense gets an evolution Pokemon and puts it in your hand. Level Ball is a Pokemon with 90 HP or less and puts it into your hand. Buddy Buddy Poffin is 2 basic Pokemon with 70 HP or less. Hisuian Heavy Ball lets you look at your prizes, reveal a basic Pokemon you find there, and then put Hisuian Heavy Ball in your prizes and the basic Pokemon into your hand. So this lets you make sure that if you prize your Regieleki, your Electabuzz, any of your other basic attackers that you could need, or one of your basic support Pokemon, you can just get them out of the prizes with the Hisuian Heavy Ball. Battle VIP Pass is very good. In certain decks, I think this deck can take good advantage of it, because if you find it on your first turn, you can search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon and put them on your bench. So this can be very solid, gets you Zapdos, gets you your other Pokemon that don't have 70 HP or less, and then you can pretty easily find this on the first turn going second with all of the item-based supporter search that we have. Ultra Ball lets you discard 2 cards from your hand, and then you get any Pokemon into your hand. Nest Ball lets you put a basic Pokemon from your deck on your bench. Quick Ball lets you discard a card and then get any basic Pokemon to hand. And then Evo Soda lets you search your deck for a card that evolves from one of your Pokemon in play and put it onto that Pokemon, and then you shelf your deck. So it's kind of like Evolution Incense, but it just gets it straight out of the deck onto that Pokemon. So other just general trainers, Escape Rope, both players switch their active Pokemon, good with the Zapdos. Field Blowers, pretty generally good card. Choose 2 in any combination of stadium cards and trainer cards, tool cards, and discard them. Counter Catcher, the deck does tend to go behind on prizes if you don't take an aggressive lead with Zapdos, and that can be the key to winning some matchups. Because you're spreading so much damage, you have potential for comeback plays. So if you bring something up that they can't retreat with, and then you hit with Electabuzz, if they don't have a way to move that thing out of the active, you can just go Electabuzz again and do 100 damage everywhere. And if that doesn't win you the game, a third Electabuzz almost certainly will. Enhanced Hammer discards a special energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon. It can help in certain matchups like fighting with Okidogi. If they attach a special energy, the Okidogi gets 100 more HP, and that can be really difficult to deal with because this deck is all about chipping away at your opponent's Pokemon. So enhanced hammering it away when it has maybe HP more than if it loses the 100 HP from the special energy, it would go below the amount of damage that's on it. You can take a free KO that way and then continue with your game plan of spreading damage. Palpad is in the deck, which lets you shuffle up to 2 supporter cards from your discard pile back into your deck, and this is very good. As I mentioned earlier, Zebstrika is very destructive, making you discard your hand every time you use it, but Palpad can let you recycle some of those supporters, and because you're digging so deep with Zebstrika, you can pretty easily find them again. And then via Seeker, Staple, and GLC, put a supporter card from your discard pile back into your hand. So the other trainers, Professor's Letter lets you search your deck for 2 basic energy, reveal them, and put them into your hand. So this is good because the Dynamotor abilities require energy to be in the discard pile. So you can play Professor's Letter to get 2 energy, attach 1, and then sprint away the other one, and now you have an energy that you can attach with the Dynamotor. And then, again, Zebstrika is very destructive, so the deck plays Ordinary Rod, Rescue Stretcher, and Super Rod. Ordinary Rod, choose 1 or both, shuffle up to 2 Pokemon or 2 basic energy back into the deck. Rescue Stretchers, choose 1, you get a Pokemon from your discard pile back into your hand, or 3 Pokemon back into deck. And then Super Rod is 3 in any combination of Pokemon and basic energy cards back into the deck. Electropower is another card that opens up just a whole lot of donk plays for lightning, or just like generally just more damage to take out something that you wouldn't normally be able to. Which, when you play it, it just makes your lightning Pokemon do 30 more damage until the end of your turn. So you can go use this to do 110 with Zapdos, or 50 with Morpeko's Torment, or 80 with Morpeko's Spark. It can just be very, very good at boosting damage to take key KOs that you'd be missing otherwise. On to the supporter cards. There are a whole bunch of these that just search out that you can use turn one going second, because if you get set up, you just get to play the game, and that's the best thing you can do in Gym Leader Challenge. So Arven gets you an item and a tool. Guzma and Hollow lets you discard 2 cards from your hand to get a Stadium, Tool card, and special just Energy, which includes Special Energy. Green's Exploration you can play only if you don't have any Pokemon with abilities in play, and you just search your deck for up to 2 trainer cards. Raihan you can only use if one of your Pokemon was knocked out during your opponent's last turn. It gets you a basic energy from your discard pile and lets you attach it to one of your Pokemon, and then you search your deck for any card and put it into your hand. Teammates lets you use it again only if one of your Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn, and then you search your deck for up to 2 cards and put them into your hand. Volkner gets you an item card and an energy card, and then Lusamine puts 2 in any combination of supporters and stadiums from your discard pile back into your hand. Lusamine's very good. Again, Zebstrika's destructiveness. Lusamine lets you kind of loop supporters back for a turn, get them into your hand where you can play them the next turn, and at a point in the game, you've seen so much of your deck that you just don't need to sprint anymore. So Lusamine can let you set up for some really like crippling plays against your opponent. So Hand Disruption, Marnie, Iono, and N, all of them have slightly different effects, but they all are just hand disruption. Marnie's both players shuffle their hands and put them on the bottom. You get 5 cards, your opponent gets 4 cards. Iono is both players shuffle, put on the bottom, and then each player draws for their remaining prize cards. And then N is each player shuffles their hands into their deck, and then each player draws for their remaining prize cards. Tate and Liza is a dual use supporter. You have choose one, shuffle your hand into your deck and draw 5 cards, or switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. It's another way to move Zapdos into the active, and it's just another way to just shuffle your hand into your deck and refresh it with 5 new cards. And it can be less destructive than the Zebstrika. Professor's Research, just discard your hand, draw 7. Sometimes this deck just wants to go turbo, dig through, find the resources it needs to get set up. Professor's Research really allows that. Guzma, switch one of your opponent's benched Pokemon with their active Pokemon, and if you do, you switch one of your benched Pokemon with your active Pokemon. Again, another way to get the Zapdos into the active. Your opponent does have to have a benched Pokemon for it to work, but if they do have like multiple, you can choose what you take out with the Zapdos. And then Hex Maniac is a very important piece in the deck because the deck can kind of struggle against bench barrier abilities like Manaphy, Mew, certain types, Rabsca, all these types have bench barrier abilities, and with Hex Maniac you can shut those off and get a turn of spread off. And ideally you're KOing the bench barrier Pokemon to force them to get it back, and then you have Palpad and VS Seeker to get back Hex Maniac if you need to. So on to tools and stadiums. Counter gain, like I mentioned, the deck does sometimes go behind on prizes. So if you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent, attacks used by the Pokemon this card is attached to cost 1 colorless less. That makes the Regieleki need 2 lightning to attack. That makes the Electivire need 2 lightning to attack. Just makes some math on energy costs more convenient. Muscle Band is another damage modifier. The attacks with the Pokemon this card is attached to do 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So again, Zapdos can do more damage, Morpeko can do more damage, even the Mareep can do more damage. Floatstone and U-Turn Board are both in here for retreat pivots. Floatstone just gives the Pokemon it's attached to free retreat, and then U-Turn Board makes the retreat cost of the Pokemon it's attached to only 1 less, but if it's discarded from play, it goes back into your hand. And then Silent Lab is a very good stadium against the basic bench barrier Pokemon, because while the Silent Lab is in play, it shuts off the abilities of all basic Pokemon in play in hand and in the discard pile of both people. So like Manaphy and Mew are both basic Pokemon with a bench protection ability, and Silent Lab shuts both of them off. So now your opponent has to find a Stadium Bump, and if you KO'd their bench barrier Pokemon, they need to find a Stadium Bump and their bench barrier Pokemon. And then Stormy Mountains just lets you once during a turn search a deck for a basic Lightning or a Dragon Pokemon and put it onto your bench. This is very good. Artisan is a very played card, like really, really highly played card in the format. And that just reads search your deck for a basic Pokemon without a rule box, which is irrelevant because rule box Pokemon aren't allowed in GLC. So it basically just reads search your deck for a basic Pokemon and put it on your bench. So types that have access to type specific versions of Artisan are very, very good, and they'd much rather be playing those. So for energy, there's 6 energy because you don't really need to be playing that many because you can just loop it with the Dynamotor and you're going to be discarding it anyway, so you want to have maximum consistency because of the destructiveness of Zipstrika. You want to just have maximum consistency and you're going to be able to get it back with the Dynamotors. And then Speed Lightning energy is a really cool card. When you attach it from your hand to one of your Lightning Pokemon, you draw 2 cards, more draw, lets you keep going through your deck, find the pieces you need, and then counter energy. Again, the deck does sometimes go behind on prizes, and if the counter energy is attached to a Pokemon and you're behind on prizes, the counter energy provides 2 of any energy, like of any type, which in this case is always just going to be lightning. But if you have counter energy and counter gain, you can attach both to Electivire and you're attacking for 1 energy attachment. So you can commit your Dynamotors to a backup attacker. So a couple combos. I've mentioned throughout the video just the power that Zapdos has with the Thunderous Assault. There's just the deck wants to play a ton of pivot options to get it into the active, and Guzma to be able to do a targeted turn 1 going second Zapdos attack. Escape Rope, Floatstone, U-turn board, all able to be played turn 1 going first, or in turn 1 going second, without using your supporter, so that you have access to something like Professor's Research that you can use to find these pieces or just get more generally set up if you're not winning the game. And then Electropower and Muscle Band is a very, very strong combo. This deck has a bunch of different ways to take donks. The Mareep, like I mentioned earlier, with the Shock Bolt attack, 1 lightning does 30 damage, and that can be very, very overwhelming for basic, like a 70 HP Pokemon, for example. If you do 30 damage, that's not KOing it. But if you apply Electropower and Muscle Band, now you're doing 50 more damage, and that's 80 damage to a 70 HP Pokemon. So that just takes that out immediately. And then if you're playing something like Water with the Wailord that has 130 HP, you can go Mareep, Electropower, Muscle Band to do 80 damage multiplied by 2 for weakness, and you can actually even take out the Wailmer that has 130 HP by doing 160 damage through weakness. So thanks for watching. Leave a couple links in the description. The deck list, the official Gym Leader Challenge website, which is a great place to go to learn more about the format, and they've got some great starter decks. And then the Cardboard Warriors website, which is a great place to go to see more decks made by the community and even build your own. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.